Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Well, today we're doing another Distro Wars, and we're going to have a look at the Budgie desktop environments, Ubuntu Budgie versus Manjaro Budgie. So these are both spins available from various respective websites. UbuntuBudgie.org is where you're going to find the community build for Ubuntu Budgie. And over at Manjaro.org in the download and community section, you will be able to find the Manjaro build. Of course, before we dive on into the distros themselves, let's talk briefly about each one of these. So first and foremost, I believe I have a couple of history and detailed use of using Budgie, so we're not going to cover that in great detail, although we will have a brief look at the Budgie desktop for those that are unfamiliar with it. Now, Ubuntu is going to be based on the Ubuntu build, of course, downstream of Debian, and Manjaro is going to be downstream of Arch. So if you're looking specifically for an Arch or a Debian, that already makes your choices easy. But neither one of these is a bad distribution, for sure. In fact, both of them are very good, and stick around to the end. I actually am going to call a winner on this one, just on the basis of various setups, options, and things like that. Although both of them give us really good runnings. So you can head on over to the websites. UbuntuBudgie.org will get us the website for Budgie. You have a variety of different options, including you have a 2010, which is one I downloaded. We have a 2004, and there's a couple older ones out there as well. So what is it? We have links to the Budgie desktop environment, which was created by the Solace project. So if you want the purest or most intentional form of Solace, definitely have a look over, Budgie, definitely have a look at Solace. Now, of these two, Manjaro gives us the more pure Budgie experience, but Ubuntu has different themes, which adds some interesting user elements to it. So we have a lot of different information here about applets, widgets, and things like that. And then the team about it. And these guys did a great job with Ubuntu Budgie. We have here a download, an 1804, a 2004, and a 2010. Of course, your 2010 is a standard release. It is really only good for for a few more months. They run on about I think it's like a 12-month or so cycle. And then, of course, you have two LTSs. So you can download whichever one. You can direct download or download the torrents. And if you do need a 32-bit, the 1804 version is available as a 32. Everything else is going to be 64 only. On to Manjaro. This is one of the community editions, so it is officially on their site, but it's not officially done by the Manjaro team. However, we have a similar principle with the Ubuntu Budgie team. There are some official Ubuntu guys there, and there are some other guys that are separating it out, and that's how the flavors work. You can kind of say the community editions in Manjaro are very similar to the flavors in Ubuntu. They're officially recognized, just not officially done by the team itself necessarily. So we have one option, and that's because Manjaro is always a rolling distribution. You don't have the LTS point releases like you have available in Ubuntu. But you can head on over here and you can just go ahead and grab it. There's not a lot of other information on the site itself. So with that, let's go ahead and have a brief look at the first one of these, which is going to be our Ubuntu Budgie. So let's jump on over to our desktop view here. Well, this guy loads up and we will have a look. All right, so here we are on the Ubuntu login screen. So we're going to come on in over here, enter my super secret password. That's definitely not 123. Go ahead and get logged in. And when we get logged in here, we should see the welcome screen. If not, I'll go ahead and load it up again. Not sure if it loads every single time you boot it up until you tell otherwise. All right, so here we are. We are on the desktop. You can see we have some semi-transparency. They give us a dock down here at the bottom, so we have quick access to some applications. On the dock by default, we have Firefox, Files, LibreWriter, LibreCalc. We have Rhythmbox. We have software, and we have Budgie Welcome. I believe in this case, software is the GNOME Software Center. The Budgie Welcome screen, which loads the very first time you boot the system up, is one of the best starting screens. So we have a lot of different options here. We have introduction to it. We have our features. So you can walk through what the various features of the system are here. And then we have getting started options. So these are some steps that you might want to get started with. So browser, is it browser ballet, whatever. This guy here, you can choose what other web browsers you'd like to install. You can see Firefox is already installed. We have easy install of Chromium, Chrome, Vivaldi, Midori, Opera, GNOME Web, and Furel. You can see that some of them, like Vivaldi and Chrome, are not snaps, and you can see the other ones generally are snaps. So the Firefox one, we have the ability to install a snap version in addition, but otherwise we actually have the repository version of Firefox installed. So that's how you get started with your browsers. Under our customization, we have some user interface options. So the Budgie desktop settings, this is something that's going to be found in any Budgie system. And one of the criticisms of Budgie is that there is a separate settings panel because this does require GNOME. And so we have a basic GNOME settings panel here. And then we also have a Budgie settings panel as well. So if you're not familiar exactly what you're looking for, you could possibly get lost. Let me briefly summarize it for you though. Here's your basic full-on computer settings inside of your basic settings, and anything that is specific to Budgie, such as the applets, the style, the theming, all of this is in your Budgie desktop settings. All right, so we also have in here's keyboard shortcuts. Post-installation, we have updates. We can check the system for updates. I ran updates last night. There could possibly be some updates. Maybe on Manjaro, there definitely will be because, Arch. We do have restricted extras, so you did not have the option to install the third-party codecs on the installation on this, but you can go ahead and install the restricted extras right here, which is going to give us that information. Here's our driver support, so any additional drivers that you might need. And if there's anything else in the system you need to understand, you can find all that over there. So let's go ahead and leave this back to the main menu. We do have a couple software options. We have Budgie Extras. These are going to be, if I remember correctly, I think these are going to be applets. So applets will extend how your Budgie function works. They do have some of these installed. So like we have up here in the corner, we have a Places applet already installed. This is a quick note. So if you want to take notes, I believe this first one's a desktop switcher, I believe. And then we have other things. So you can add other applets as well. And they do have a lot of them. So the applications menu applet, browser profile launcher, just a lot of different applets. If you're used to Plasma, you'll like seeing the Budgie desktop extras. Now, the other thing that we have recommendations. The Software Center is going to be boot up your basic GNOME Software Center. The Snap apps, this guy, I did not actually see what's in this one, or the Flatpak apps. Of course, this is going to give you the ability to install snaps, and the other one will give you the ability to install Flatpak. So over here, let's, yeah, that's right, Canonical started doing this crap. All right, fine enough. So over here, it just loads up the Snap Store. So we don't actually have the Snap Store installed on this, unlike with your standard Budgie. You can simply install that if you'd like. I did notice, so the GNOME Software Center does have your snaps installed. Now, the other option that we have in Ubuntu Budgie is we have the desktop layouts and themes. So the basic default theme here is actually pretty nice. We do have an alternate menu. If I'm not mistaken, this is the same menu that is in Elementary OS. I've never been a fan of it personally. Although it's fine. It's not a deal breaker for me. It's just not my favorite. But if you go to like Arc Design here and hit the Apply Makeover button, it's going to change your theming. And it looks like that's not going to change your application window. I'd probably have to just change the applet. This is controlled by an applet. I just need to change the application window there. You can see we can quickly change our theming styles over. It looks like it's not really doing much more than simply applying the same themes you could apply inside of your settings panel for the Budgie desktops. But we do have a nice option there for doing themes and layouts. Other than that, it's going to be an Ubuntu running Budgie. So if you're familiar with Ubuntu or you're familiar with Debian, it's going to run very well for you. As far as stability, I don't really think there's a ton of Manjaro stability issues at this point in time. But overall, I would say Ubuntu Budgie is going to be more stable over the long haul. It's just because Ubuntu tends to be more stable than Manjaro tends to be. So there is your basic layout. Let me go ahead and show you though how you might be able to change the menu there to a different one. So booting up Budgie desktop settings, that is going to be a you can see it's the app menu. That's going to be one of your applets here. So if you add the Budgie menu instead, so let's go ahead and add the Budgie menu. It's going to automatically add to the middle there. Let's go ahead and just move it up, 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 up. And if I don't like the app menu, I just want to delete the applet menu there. There's how you can restore your basic Budgie menu. I actually do like this one a little better, although the other one is easier to find some stuff if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. So that's actually how you can easily change your applets. Just click this guy over here. There's a lot of applets already installed. It's just that Ubuntu gives you more applets to install that are not already ready to go inside of here. So there is Ubuntu Budgie. Let's go ahead and have a look at Manjaro Budgie next. All right, so here we are on the Manjaro loading screen. You can see it's very similar to the Ubuntu one, just of course themed with Manjaro. Get logged in here, and then we will get a chance to look at it. Now, this one's going to be a little bit more vanilla Budgie than was Ubuntu. So just because that's generally what Arch does, although Manjaro does some nicer theming. I think Manjaro does some of the best theming in the market. Here we are launched in. So here is our applets and notification panels over here. We have our updates panel over here. We have time and date settings, power, and that's pretty much all we get. We do have a couple of options over here, and we do have the standard Budgie menu out of the box. We do have a welcome screen when Manjaro launches. We have documentation, support, and project stuff. The only one that's really applicable to anything on the machine itself is your applications list, where we just have our very quick application launcher here for installing different software. We don't have a lot of extra theming options inside of here. Some Manjaros do, but this one does not. Let's double check that real quick. Yeah, we really don't have that. So really the only theming options that we're going to have is go on into your Budgie desktop settings, and you can actually come over here and set your theming. There you go. That's seven new updates to install since I did it yesterday, right? All right, so we can force a dark theme over here. We can use a built-in theming, and then we have a theming options for our widgets, our icons, our cursors, and any notification positions. So we do have those as our basic options here. Inside of our panel, this is kind of the basic default layout you're even going to find on Solus, except for Solus, we'll put the menu on the bottom instead of putting the menu on the top. We do, of course, have the Manjaro option here, which will give us the options to adjust our kernels and things like that. So you can see we are running here. I didn't show what kernel we were running on the previous one, but we're running 5.9.11-3 here. Now, the other spot that we are going to have some difference with running Manjaro is we have our Pamuk is going to be installed over here. And with Pamuk, we do have a couple options. Let me make sure that we have a slightly different build going on here than in the standard Manjaro. If you are opposed to snap packages, you can turn it off, and by default it's off. But if you are not opposed to snap packages, a simple toggle button will turn this on. Now, in our regular builds for Manjaro, you also have the ability to enable Flatpak options, which are not enabled here. Although I believe you can install it if you install Flatpak and install the Flatpak plugin for Pamuk. We also have the same thing here, Arch User Repository, AUR. If you want to use AUR, you can toggle it on. If you are a little leery of AUR, you can keep it off. And then we have various mirrors. You can adjust your mirrors from wherever you're going to here. And let's just find United States. So that way, anytime we're doing any adjustments, updates, or finding software, we're going to be using closer mirrors here instead of using just generic worldwide mirrors. So we do have a lot of other options. As far as which of these are going to have different software, Manjaro is likely going to have more software, or particularly since you can enable the Arch user repository. And you're probably going to get some newer software in it as well. Let me go ahead and click on this. I want to see if this is also Flatpak, or I probably believe that should be a Flatpak. Oh, that's actually a Snap. All right. So Discord and things are from Snap. So I wasn't sure if that was going to be from a Snap or from a Flatpak there. So one of the things on these is if it's a Snap or a Flatpak, if there's multiple options, it's going to show you in the listing where it's from. So you'll have the ability to choose which one you want to use. But Pamac is going to give us a lot more options as far as theming or as far as installing software and choice on where your software comes from for those interested. Other than that, we're not going to find a whole ton of differences. The biggest change here on Manjaro, of course, is we're running Arch. And so to run an update over here, you're going to do pacman instead of apt install. So pacman-s to install something. SYU will update all the systems, update all the mirrors, basically install all of your updates. That's all going to be done over here. So it did tell me there we had 7 updates, but then it told me we didn't have any updates. So I have no idea if we have updates or not. All right, let's go ahead and click on over here. Okay, so it is actually, says it's up to date. Not sure why it told us we had updates earlier. So there is Manjaro Budgie. You'll notice we don't have the dock down at the bottom because this one is a little bit more vanilla other than moving the panel up to the top. All of the settings are going to be the same as your Budgie desktop settings, and it's going to also have your standard system settings as well. You're going to get newer versions of software over here, and Manjaro generally has been pretty good recently. However, I will say that it has had some stability issues in the past. So if you are new to Linux and you want something with a lot more stability, I would definitely point you towards the Ubuntu version rather than point you towards the Manjaro. If you're already familiar with using Arch or you're not concerned with trying to fix something, the Manjaro version might actually be a little bit better. Overall, I tend to like Manjaro's a little bit better than I tend to like Ubuntu's. And they're just not going to be as stable, and you are going to have and contend with a lot more updates in it. So there you have it, looking at both of these two distributions, both running Budgie. They're both going to run a fairly up-to-date Budgie. Manjaro is going to push newer versions when it comes out sooner than Ubuntu is. For Ubuntu to push out the newer versions of Budgie, you're going to have to upgrade to the next release cycle. So versus Manjaro being a rolling. So it's going to boil down to this. If you want extra theming or a little bit more stability, Ubuntu is going to be the better call. If you want something that's maybe even a little bit more compelling, a little bit more on the edge, and you're not as concerned with the stability portions, then the Manjaro Budgie is definitely a better choice. More software availabilities. It does look like the Ubuntu Budgie is already equipped with snaps, Flatpaks, and repository. Manjaro has, in this case, Manjaro has the AUR, it has the snaps, and it has the basic repositories, no Flatpaks. So that may or may not be a deal breaker. Of course, you can add that functionality into it, but out of the box, that's what you get. Which one's going to have more software? Actually, Manjaro is going to, because the Arch user repository is just absolutely massively huge. And that plus Snap plus the Pacman repositories for Arch, it's probably going to get you a little bit more software and a little bit more cutting edge. However, me on production, I don't use anything cutting edge for production. So if this were a production computer boiled down to these two, I would go with the Ubuntu because it's going to keep package versions back until I intentionally override something and cause them to occur. Both of them are going to be very good. You're not going to go wrong with either one of them, but that's kind of my final verdict. Let me know your thoughts on these. You can help support the channel over at switchedtolinux.com/support. We have everything from affiliates over there. to direct support pages. So thank you for your support on those, and we will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.